In this demonstration, I'll describe the steps involved with modifying the transfemoral socket by the numbers in the Capture tab. The first thing we need to do is to make sure that our socket is orientated in the anterior position, and then save it before moving on to any further steps. So I currently have my socket set up so that it's basically vertical, proximal end up, distal end down, and positioned so that it is in fact set up in the anterior position. I'm going to go right up to the Save button and click Save. You'll see that it saves this. Now I can go ahead and hit the Edit button, but because it's a template, there's really no editing that needs to be done. I'm going to move on to the Alignment button and then make sure that I do in fact have it in the correct alignment. So I can look here at lateral, medial, posterior, and anterior, and every now and again I will find that these aren't aligned correctly, and you can actually go ahead and realign it here and save it and then get it in the correct alignment in this phase as well. So we do have it aligned properly. So what we want to do now on our horizontal and vertical axes is use our left and right arrows and our tilt arrows to get this squared up on our vertical axis. So I'm going to start with the center axis point here and image and just simply shift it left to right. Now I'll move to my right image and just get it centered on each of these images. I'm going to move to the left one and shift it around and just get this as centered as I possibly can, mainly on the vertical axis. And in addition, get it so that it's above the horizontal axis on the center and right image. With this one, I'm just going to tip it backwards. Everything looks just fine. I can go ahead and click Save and move on to the cleanup step. Essentially, all I do with this is hit the Global Smart Blend one time, move on to landmarks. With the landmarks, click the gold star, and I've actually created a transfemoral by the numbers option here. With this, left click each one of these individually one time. The first one is the femoral end. With this patient model, we'll have to refer to our measurement sheets. This patient has approximately 3/4 of an inch of redundant tissue below the cut end of the bone. I'm going to place my red disc or circle approximately 3/4 of an inch from the distal end, double click right on the center of the model, then move on to the second option, which is the greater trochanter. For this now, I refer to this point here, the transverse channel, to be my 0 level. Now, the center point of the lateral aspect of the limb here, and we can go down here and see this beacon. This tells me where I am positioned on my model. So we have anterior and lateral. So as far as the greater trochanter goes, the greater trochanter is not centered on the limb. I'm going to turn this just a little bit more and get it squared up perfectly lateral. So the position of the greater trochanter is actually more anterior and at about the level of the transverse channel or the 0 level of the limb, but it's actually pretty much right out in here. So at about this level, I'm going to double click and place my greater trochanter landmark right in this area. So it's a little further anterior. It's certainly not at the midpoint of the model. Next landmark or marker is the scarpa. So I'm going to shift this a little bit to the left. So this is our adductor longus tendon. So if I go to the 0 level of the model and go in about 1 inch, this is going to be the deepest point, or the scarpa triangle. And that's where I want to place the scarpa landmark. So again, go to the 0 level, come in about 1 inch, and place it right in this area. So the transverse channel is going to be on the posterior aspect of the model. Shift it just a little bit to the left. So this is a deep groove in the posterior aspect of our model. We're going to go right to the center point of that and double click and place that right there. Okay, adductor longest channel. Again, referring back to this deep channel here. Go to the 0 level. I'm just going to go a little bit below that. Double click, place the adductor longest marker right there. 0 level. So the 0 level is going to be right below the tab. Well, this is where our ischial tuberosity is going to sit ultimately when we're done. So right below that tab is where our 0 level is. That pretty much right in the center of the socket. We'll grab our bar, pull that down, and we have one last marker to place, and that's the distal aspect of the ischial tuberosity. So we'll click that, highlight it. We're going to spin our socket around, tip it up. And what I like to do with this one, the ischial tuberosity is going to sit in here. All right, so we're going to lock the ischial tuberosity with our ischial containment socket right in here. So what I like to do here is come over about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch and up the same amount. Double click, place that there. The concept here is the ischial tuberosity is kind of half round or half moon shaped. It's going to sit right in here, and it's not going to sit on this ledge. If I tip this socket up, there's a true ledge in this socket. So if we look at it from a couple different angles, oops, you can see there's a real ledge there in our template. Look at it from the front. We do not want the ischial tuberosity to sit on that ledge. We want it to float above it, and we want the front end of it, or the ramus, to come out right through here. So our ischial tuberosity, the distal aspect of it, is going to sit right in here. So we get a good lock on it. So we want an ischial containment socket with our ischial tuberosity floating above this ledge and the ramus escaping out through the front. So this is for a right prosthesis. Reorient my socket. And we have now completed the capture tab, or the capture side, of our modifications.